Thank you for coming over to film our Hydroponics Pavilion for which is being made ready for the Agri-Intex 2014. This is basically to demonstrate a technology called soilless cultivation and a sub-subject called hydroponics. The word hydroponics is loosely used by people when they refer to soilless cultivation, but actually hydroponics is two words. One is hydro and ponos. Hydro actually means water in Latin and ponos in Greek means working. So which means actually plants which are working in water or water working. But it does not mean that plants only grow in water, but they also do grow in other substrates other than soil. One may wonder why we need to use something other than soil. The reason why we use something other than soil are many. If you actually look at it today, the amount of diseases that we get from our soils and the nutrients are so badly depleted and the soils are not sterile any longer due to overuse of pesticides, fertilizers over a period of time by farmers in our country or even in developing countries. I am actually Lieutenant Commander C.V. Prakash. I am a retired naval officer. I actually learned this technology in Australia, and I have been in this field for almost 13 and a half, 14 years. And after I did this in Australia for about 8 years, I felt that this is a technology that can be adopted in India too, because I felt it was the need of the hour. The benefit of this technology is that it actually conserves a lot of water. We just use about 10% or to 12% of the water that's used in soil cultivation. And as you know, water is a very scarce resource. The next world war will be fought over maximum or two main issues. One is food or one will be water. Therefore, the idea was to bring a technology which can be adopted by even poor people, middle class, rich people, corporates, anybody. The beauty of this technology is that it can be done in a very simple manner. We call it a simplified hydroponics, wherein you can use recycled materials, and by using recycled materials what happens is you are able to bring down the cost of cultivation, and it can be done in a very easy and simple manner. Every household can actually grow even a 10 by 10 square feet garden which can produce assorted vegetables of up to 1 kilogram per day, and for a family of a father, mother and 2 children, 1 kg of vegetable is a lot of vegetables per day. And when it comes to commercial hydroponics, it can be done in greenhouses with environment control and also by giving the right precision nutrition to the plants. Hydroponics as a science has developed over the last 70 years. It has reached a level where it addresses every single requirement of a plant, be it at the root zone or the shoot zone. It gives very high importance to irrigation, the regime of watering plants, when to water, how much to water, how much of nutrients to add into the water, and it takes care of very minute details like what is the pH of the solution before the salts are mixed, after it is mixed, after it is drained out we check to see what the pH and EC is, so we get an idea of what is the salt levels in the substrate. When I say substrate here, it can be coconut peat, which is very much available in our country, especially Tamil Nadu is the largest producer of cocoa peat, and most of our cocoa peat actually gets exported out of the country, and of course it's processed in factories to a very high standard, and there must be possibly more than 100 companies I think in Tamil Nadu, small and big, that make cocoa peat as a substrate. I actually came into this field because first I saw people selling cocoa peat in Australia. So when I asked people why cocoa peat instead of soil, that's when I bumped into the subject called soilless cultivation. It actually took my fancy and I went deep into it to learn, and I realized that if the rest of the world can use this technology for a better purpose, why not Indians? So after about 8 years of experience, I felt I was confident enough to bring the technology to India, teach people. So the first thing you do is to teach people how to do this kind of a technique, use this technique. Everything else remains the same. People think we use genetically modified seeds and things like that. It's not true. We just use natural or hybrid seeds. We also believe that we should not use pesticides as much as possible. In a greenhouse we follow integrated pest management, but all the time we are trying to see that we are using a methodology where you use biopesticides. Even in simple hydroponics we make our own pesticides at home, like garlic spray, green chili spray, we make turmeric spray, we make milk powder spray, we make neem spray and those kind of things. So the thing is that as much as possible we should not use pesticides. Now many people say, oh, you're using a lot of salts which are, like how we use fertilizers in soil. Here also we use inorganic salts. We don't call ourselves organic, but then the best part is that our produce, like for example a tomato, will contain the best levels of nutrition that is required. And as you know, in our country, even most people are actually undernourished, not because they eat less, but because what they eat does not contain enough nutrition. We use all the macro and micronutrients that are required for the plants, and we do not overuse any of these nutrients. So the thing is, hydroponics has developed into such a beautiful science. It is the need of the hour. We don't need to use a tractor or a tiller or any of these things. Any land is agricultural land as long as there's some water and there's availability of sunlight and human effort. The yields in hydroponics it can be from 5 times to even 20 times. Like for example, tomatoes. In a greenhouse, if you do, in a soil, if you do say tomatoes, you may do 15 tons. A good farmer may even do up to 20 tons in an acre per annum. But in hydroponic methodology, what happens is you can do even up to 250, 300 tons per annum in a greenhouse, which is phenomenal. You can do up to 225 tons of cucumber over 3 crops in a year. So what is important today is to bring technology, modern technology, to be able to help small farmers also who have very low land holdings, but to be able to produce more than what they have. So if you have 1 acre of land and you are able to produce 20 times the amount of tomatoes, that means it's as good as having 20 acres of land. So this is good news for everybody. And I have been teaching students for about 6 years in India. I have trained more than 6,000 students from all over India. There are some of my students who still practice hydroponics at home, and I have set up 3 projects in commercial hydroponics, one in Bangalore, one I did in Coimbatore, and I did one of course for an Indian client but in Zambia in Africa. So the thing being, this is a science that has immense value to people. And as you know, farmers normally have to depend on labor to pull out weeds and various other things. Here you don't have any weeds. If you can see in this garden as you move along this program, you can actually see there are no weeds with the plants. So you don't have to pull out any weeds. You don't need that kind of labor. The most important thing is, the best part is the amount of labor that we need is actually very less. So for an acre of greenhouse, you might need maximum 2 to 3 people and one manager or supervisor. It is not so easy to learn the technique. You need to go through the learning curve, because here it is intensive horticulture and you got to really be very, very closely monitoring your plants. The reason is very simple. In soil, the plants can actually, the roots can look for their water and food somehow. But here what happens is, it's a sterile medium. The cocoa peat does not on its own contain nutrients, and it does not hold water. If it becomes too hot, it might lose out all the water. So you got to watch your plants, and of course there is automation available at higher levels in greenhouses, and the automation also can help in terms of giving irrigation to the plants, fertigation, and also operating various environmental controls like the vents, opening and closing of the vents, the switching on and off of circulation fans, exhaust fans. You monitor the temperature, the humidity, you monitor the vapor pressure deficit, you measure the amount of moisture that is there in the substrate. You can operate your greenhouse based on different kinds of parameters, which is very highly scientific. So what happens is, this technology is good provided people who are process oriented people who go by process and logic. They find this technology extremely interesting, and you really don't have to be an agricultural background to be able to do this. More than 90% of the people who I have seen around the world doing hydroponics in my many years in this field, most of them are actually non-agriculturists. I have seen retired lawyers, doctors, chartered accountants, airline pilots, even truck drivers in Australia who have taken to this thing and doing extremely well in this field. So hydroponics is an answer to a lot of problems that we face today. Today we have water problems. We don't have good quality of water, or we don't just have proper water, or we have a lot of heavy metals in our water, and these kind of things. And also the labor is not available today. As we all know, the farmers, because they don't have labor, they just stop farming. Lots of people, the prices of vegetables have gone up so high in the recent times. Yesterday I was told that in Kerala, ginger is going for 40 rupees for 100 grams, which means it's 400 rupees a kilogram, which is ridiculous. So the thing is, production is coming down, population is increasing, usage of pesticide is increasing, and people are paying more to eat poisonous food. So this technology is an imperative in the future, because today, due to global warming, for example, the monsoons in India today, they are delayed by almost a month now. There's no monsoon, there's hardly any rains. Now what do you do in such situations? Or you get unseasonal rains many times, and if your plants are flowering in the soil, if the flowers fall away, where are you going to get the fruits from? So there are so many different problems that Indian agriculture is facing, and this kind of technology can be adopted. People can even grow, even if they just have a quarter of an acre or even less than that, they can still grow much more than what they can grow in normal soil growing using this technology, and it can help farmers to start thinking like entrepreneurs or businessmen. The idea today is, there are a lot of think tanks in India and around the world who are saying, especially in developing countries, it should not be just sustainable agriculture, or where people just, for their livelihood, they get money and they live and take care of their family. They should become businessmen in agriculture. But to become a businessman in agriculture, you need to use technology, and this technology is something that can be adopted by the right method, by the use of right resource people, by training people, going to the farms, teaching people, auditing them, and that kind of a thing will actually be able to change the face of Indian horticulture. So having said that, when you look at it in the commercial terms also, companies like Walmart India or Bharti Group or any of these people who have supermarket chains, they need to have consistent high quality vegetables on a daily basis. In India, unfortunately, so far we do not really find branded vegetables. Okay, some people may be doing in a small way, but when you say branding of a vegetable, a tomato, say a Roma tomato, should look the same, taste the same, should be available throughout the year, it should have the same texture, it should have the same sweetness or same sourness that is required. So all this is possible only when you can control the inputs. How do you control those inputs? When you do it in a greenhouse, you can control the inputs. Your plants grow actually together, they give just plus minus 5% here and there difference in yield, and you can actually predict your crop to a large extent. There is no reason why the science will fail in India unless and until we are used to taking shortcuts, or we are people who don't like procedures. For such people, it may be difficult, but for people who have connection with plants, people who have passion for this subject, there is no reason I see why we cannot actually improve Indian horticulture in several different ways. We can have clusters of farmers in different taluks and other places from where, because small farmers cannot take their produce to the market. We can have cooperatives where we have vehicles coming and picking up whatever people have grown on a daily basis and pay them a better price. And there is also a phenomenal potential for India, not only to feed its own people, we have the potential to feed more than half this world. We have the best temperatures, we have the best climate for growing, and as we know, anything literally grows in India. So we have almost 10 plus hours of full sunlight, unlike countries that are closer to the poles, where they get 4 hours, 3 hours of sunlight. They have to use artificial lighting and those kind of things. In India, we have sufficient light, we have everything is there, God given, but we have not organized ourselves and are not doing the right things. Then there is a problem. Even if a person is a very passionate farmer, he still gets inputs which come from different sources. They are spurious inputs also. So when you give a certain fertilizer or a pesticide or whatever to a farmer, you got to give him the right stuff. There are so many spurious seeds floating in the market. There are so many different things floating. People sell them cheap. So farmers think, okay, I'm cutting down my price. But actually what happens is it affects his yield. So here in hydroponic, we cannot compromise, we say, on 4 very, very important things. Number one, the quality of the water. It's not the quantity here, but the quality of the water, the quality of the substrate, the quality of the seeds, and the quality of the nutrients. These are very, very important. If you take care of these, and the 5th factor is the human factor, where if you are diligent and devoted to what you're doing, there is no reason why this science has failed. It cannot fail. I personally was a grower in Bangalore. I grew spinach, I grew strawberry, I grew coriander. I supplied spinach to Walmart Bangalore for 3.5 years. And for a simple thing like spinach or what we call palak, I was paid 52 rupees a kilo by Walmart only because of the quality of the produce. There were no holes, there was no pesticide, there were no worms at all in the plant. So you can imagine, and people say, why would I grow hydroponic tomatoes when prices fall to say 50 paisa sometimes in Karnataka or someplace, because too many people produce it. I say even in tomatoes you can grow different high exotic varieties of tomato. So that is how you make your money. You don't grow what you like, you always grow what you can sell. So that has to also come in. Today what happens, one farmer looks at the other farmer and says, what are you growing? He says, I'm going to grow chili. And what he does, okay, I'll also grow chili. So everybody grows chili, and finally the price of chili comes down, or tomatoes comes down. This is what is happening. Then there's a lack of market intelligence in India. There's no body which can tell the farmers that this year, be careful guys, more than so many percentage of people should not grow tomato because there's going to be a glut, or this is happening. There's no, even as you know, like sometimes, like recently we had a shortage of onions. There was no market intelligence. We actually saw it in the news and then realized, oh my God, there is no onions in India. We were importing onions from somewhere else, correct? So the thing is, we here have a great opportunity. We can actually do wonders, right from growing food in the homes, right up to taking it to commercial hydroponics. And the mantra today, even in the United States, they are giving billions of dollars of support. Different states are giving to their people, saying that grow local food. Because when we say fresh vegetable, we don't even realize what we are talking. Just last week, someone saying that they get their lettuce in Texas, which comes from California, which is coming, Texas, it comes from California. It's so coming from such a huge distance. The amount of diesel that is being burnt to bring it, the carbon footprint. So the modern think tanks or people, they are realizing that we must grow our vegetables in the same locality, or say Coimbatore. All around Coimbatore, if the people are producing vegetables, why should it come from some other place like Madurai or Chennai or some other place? Whatever is possible can be produced. So that when you can take the harvest up to the plate of a person who is consuming it within 4 to 5 hours, then you can say, yes, this vegetable is fresh. But if it's coming after 3 days, then I don't think that's fresh. It's really not fresh. So we stand at the juncture of a change in this country. We are demonstrating this hydroponic garden just to make people understand, see for themselves with their own eyes how plants can be grown without the use of soil. We maintain a very hygienic environment inside this small shade house, and you can see it's kept almost like a hospital or an ICU. This really kept clean. So there are so many factors when followed. This science actually never lets us down, and this will be the part of my first phase of just introducing hydroponics as such. And to just give you a small background, many developed countries like Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand, Israel, Holland, Germany, Belgium, so many different countries, including, you will be surprised, even Pakistan, they are using this technology and they have beaten us to it. Bangladesh, people are doing it. I have a client who I consult for in Sri Lanka, and people are doing it in the deserts in Dubai. I have a client there as well. So the thing is, it is picking up everywhere. There is no reason why it cannot pick up in India. All it needs is a push from private and public sector and research centers so that they can actually, spread the technology in a better way. So I'm actually here on the invitation of Codicia and Tamil Nadu Agriculture University. We are all doing this together, and we are trying to produce this garden so that people can actually come and move around and see plants growing for themselves. And we want to improve the confidence of the people that all is not lost, and this technology is available and we can make use of it in a very good way. So we have a lot of things that we actually throw away and we say, oh, we don't need this, or this is no longer required. We put them into garbage. For example, we put a lot of soft drink bottles like Coca-Cola PET bottles, even your mineral water or packaged drinking water bottles. We throw them away. But the truth is, you can actually use those bottles for a different purpose. So if like I'm pointing out here, if you see, this is just a bottle which contained packaged drinking water. But as you can see here, I'm growing this plant just by having cut it. I put a small little sponge inside, and I've anchored the plant, and I put this into nutrient water. Every day all I do is I just aerate it by just doing that with another mug. I create bubbles, and that creates more oxygen, and when there's more oxygen for the plant, you get less diseases and better uptake of nutrient. So this is, you can see how simple it is. It is not something that is so expensive that you can even, do you have to pay money to actually pick up something like this from the roadside and use it? No, it's very easy. All you need to do is to just get some sponge, which is really inexpensive, and you can buy some seeds. You don't need too many for a small family at home. You can keep this on a windowsill, you can keep it on a balcony, you can keep it anywhere where there's light and grow plants. See here, if you notice, this is a paint drum. Now this is a paint drum. I'm using this paint drum. I made a little drainage here for excess water to come out, and I'm using coconut peat. I'm growing a tomato plant, and you can see this is also something that would have been actually sent back for recycling or put into a garbage trash can. So that is another one. This wooden board what I've used now, this wood was in Codicia. After every exhibition you find there are a lot of wood just lying around, and we went scavenging all over the place with my 3 boys here who are